What is going on, guys? Joey here, and today I just wanted to talk about something that lifters do in the off season, the top lifters, right? Something that I know I've touched on this before. I'm not sure when the last time I touched on it was, but I'm going to kind of paint a scenario for you guys, and hopefully this can help you sort of either figure out your priorities or understand what it might take to get to that next level. So let's say you hire a coach, you do a meet prep, maybe 5 months, right? 5 months, 6 months, 4 months, whatever. Let's say 4 months, right? 3 to 4 months. You do your prep, you compete, you have a lot of fun, you hit some PRs, and then you take a break, right? You kind of take 2 or 3 weeks off, and then you start training on your own, and then maybe like a month goes by, and then you hit your coach up, and then you're like, hey, I want to kind of get back into it. And then it's, you guys end up starting, and it's been like 10 weeks since your last meet, right? And you haven't been on program. You just kind of just been in the gym doing whatever. So 10 weeks goes by. And the meet that you want to do is in, 12 weeks. And you start telling your coach, hey, I want to hit all these goals. You start laying out all these goals that you want to hit. Now, when lifters tell me that, I always tell them, I cannot promise anything, but I can help you be in a good position to get as close to those goals as possible. And sometimes we do it, and sometimes we get close, and sometimes we need more time, and sometimes those numbers are just a thing of the past, and we look back and we say, man, I can't even, that's crazy how that's all I wanted to hit when I can do so much more than that now. But you compete or you start prepping and you're like really rusty, you're way under where you were, when you did your meet, and then it takes you like 8 weeks to kind of get back to like maybe just under where you were before you competed last. And then you do your meet and then you hit like tiny PRs, right? You hit like really small PRs. Versus an alternate timeline, you do your meet, you take a week off, you take 5 days off, whatever you need to mentally, physically reset, take care of your injuries, whatever. And then you build up, you start training again, and then you can really smash the PRs that you hit at your last meet because you gave yourself, 5 months to really sort of create some distance. Now, the more advanced you are as a lifter, you're going to need more time because it's just, you've been doing this a long time and it's just going to take the body a while to get there. If you're a newer lifter, you could probably do that first scenario and you might still have some good progress. But what really separates people at the top is, it's basically a year-round thing. You're pretty much training all the time. There's different gears, right? You could be pushing it a lot harder at certain points versus others. But the training is always there, and you're always hitting those. I like to break things down to sort of like when I think of it as like, in a week, you want to train a lift at least a body part, a muscle group 1 to 2 times a week, right? At least. In the very beginning, you could probably get away with once a week, right? It's kind of the same thing on a macro scale, on a larger time frame. You want to continue to be positive. You want to continue to, train and move forward. If you're taking a lot of time off, you're constantly going backwards. Now, you might get back up to your baseline. I would say the longer that you've been training overall, the more likely you are to sort of keep a very solid foundation and get back to where you were because it's something that you had done for so long. But you can really create some distance between yourself and your competitors if you're taking it serious. It's literally, if I try to relate it to, I saw this like reel, it might have been a TikTok the other day where they said something about like when you learn a new skill, if you put 20 hours into it, you're going to be better than like a really high percentage of the rest of the people that are trying to do it, like 90% of the people that want to do it, because you've already put 20 hours into it, right? There's a lot of skill that you gain quickly. For lifting, it's way more than 20 hours, but you guys get what I'm saying. So if you got to think of it like this, if you're like, especially if you're in like high school or college or something like that, those kids are dealing with a lot. They're not going to always be able to dedicate the time to training that you can. Then you can. Maybe you really want to win collegiate, so you really want to win, high school NAS or something like that, or juniors or whatever. If you can put the time in and you can stay on it longer than they can, I mean, you're probably going to automatically, just by putting in the time in, like, you're going to jump to like top 5. Like, you're just going to instantly beat a lot of people that aren't willing to put in that work, or they simply don't have the ability to put in that work. They don't have the time, they may not have the money, whatever. And, speaking of on a little bit of a higher level, more competitive level, I have, if I get a lifter who's very talented when they start and they do something that would otherwise take other people like 3 to 5 years to do, I might tell them, now you have a chance to achieve greatness. You cannot just let off the gas because it wasn't that hard for you, right? Like, you didn't have to put in 10 years before you became number one. You just you did it really quickly, did it 2-3 years, whatever. You got to explain to them that now you can separate yourself from the pack. Now you can really create some distance to where if you take this seriously and you put in the time, you put in 1, 2, 3 years, with your high, genetic base, whatever, you can be at the top for a very long time. You can create a legacy for yourself. You can create a little bit of a dynasty, history, whatever. And that's something that I think a lot of lifters don't understand, that it's like, it really just depends on, are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to put in the time? You can beat a lot of your competitors just by being in the gym. You out consistency them. You that's it. And I just feel like it's because it's not so obvious. Like, of course, if you do something a lot more, you're probably going to get better at it than other people. But it's just something that if you have the ability to take serious, you're going to end up reaching levels that you're going to be like so many cycles ahead of the opposition. You know what I'm saying? Granted, there are a lot of other variables that go into it. You have to have some potential. But everybody can be better than where they are now. You can always improve from where you are at this moment in time. It's not like just because you're not number one doesn't mean that the fact that you put like 200 pounds in your total isn't relevant. That's amazing. A person who puts 200 pounds in their total is not even going to be the same person from the start to the end of that process. They're going to grow in so many other ways. They're going to have achieved, and learn so much about themselves, their body, their recovery habits. It's just, there's just so much benefit to putting in the work, year round, as opposed to, in the beginning, I feel like there were a bunch of people that would like be on program I feel like it was very infrequent with me. Maybe like in the last decade, it was maybe like 5 to 10 people. I feel like most people, they want to stay on program because they know this. They know that they want to stay ahead, right? I'll tell people like, I understand you have other things going on, but if you could stay with it, imagine where you could be. And I recently had some people sort of come back or get back on program, and it's like, if we would have stayed on this goal that you really want now, it would be easy. You would have already surpassed it, and you'd be on to the next thing. And and like I said, it's like powerlifting isn't everything. If you're going away because you like need to get ahead in life or whatever, and powerlifting just preventing you from doing that, preventing you from being your very, very best at something else, I totally understand that. You have to be passionate about it as well. It's not like Well, you know what? You could passively, just by staying consistent in the gym, maybe you're not mentally as invested, but you're doing the training, you're recovering, you're eating your protein, things like that. You'd be surprised how much ground you could gain and how much of a better position you're going to be in when the time comes. I would like to think that the top 2 to 3 lifters, first, second, third place at any national meet, they're going to take this serious in some way, shape, or form, right? And at the world level, I mean, then powerlifting is a very, very, very important part of your life. You could almost sort of, I don't think you can do this with everyone, but you could almost equate like how serious is powerlifting to you directly with how far, I mean, yeah, like how high of a level in the sport you can reach or achieve. And if it's not on a compared to everybody else, maybe it's compared to your old self. So it's just one of those things where, I mean, you can make the meet easy for you. You can make the meet a piece of cake. You can literally go to the meet, and I've done it many times with my lifters. You can go to the meet and you can give your competitors all the respect in the world and think about this and think about that. And okay, if this happens, like we got to watch out for that big deadlift, whatever, this and that. And then because you were just able to be more consistent, maybe your training's a little bit better, maybe your nutrition's a little bit better. You do opener deadlift and you hit your second deadlift and then maybe the meet's over. You don't even need to take a third deadlift, right? There's nobody strong enough to beat you. I mean, shit, like we have extreme examples like Jesus and Amanda. Like imagine if they half-ass it, right? If they half-ass it, if they're not putting in the work to try to get to where they're at, it's possible that they still might win, but they're going to look a lot more beatable and they're not going to have that distance and create that sort of gap between themselves and the other competitors. So I guess if I had to sum up the message, I would just say you can make meet day easy for you if you just, like, you don't do that on the day. I mean, of course, you got to have good technique and stuff, but, like, you could really just come into the meet with the strength to make it a piece of cake if you're putting in the work, like, year-round as opposed to, just at, like, certain intervals or not, it sucks when, I'll talk to some of my coaches, the FLEXX coaches, and they'll say, like, yeah, so-and-so lifter, they didn't really start locking in until like about 8 weeks out. And it's like, dang, like imagine if they would have done that 16 weeks out. Like you're on program anyway. Like you might as well just take it serious. Like now they're hitting the protein. Now they're paying attention to the weight. Now they're not moving their schedule around into being consistent when they could have been doing that, before. And it's like they really want this goal, and it just sucks because if they do fall short, which with the team as big as we have, I've seen everything. I've seen people handle business, people fall short. Every single thing that you can think of, I've seen it. And it sucks because I see the I don't want to sound dramatic and say like the pain, but I see like their sadness or their disappointment that they fell short. But if they had just locked in, 8 weeks sooner, that could have been an easy fix. That could have been an easy, they would have had just a little bit more strength and they probably would have been able to handle that and get the goal that they want. And maybe that goal is a qualification, or maybe that goal is some sort of record and now they're going to age out, or now, they missed qualification for nationals and they can't do nationals. So it's just one of those things where like, you never know when you might be strong enough to get the job done. You might be like, oh, I'm only going to get third place, whatever. You don't know. Anything can happen. Opportunities present themselves. People make mistakes, especially when the pressure is on. And I just think the pain of regret and not taking it serious, it sucks. So you just want to make sure that you have your stuff in line ahead of time. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that made sense. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.